Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, Chris.
Thank you. And I'd like to welcome you to our second event in the Library Lecture Series calendar for the Spring 2015 semester. I'm Christian Burris, and along with my co-chair, Joy Campbell, we are happy to see everyone here today, and we are pleased to present today's lecture for you. In a sermon on February 4th, 1968 in Atlanta, Georgia, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said the following: "Yes, if you want to say that I was a drum major, say that I was a drum major for justice. Say that I was a drum major for peace. I was a drum major for righteousness. And all the other shallow things will not matter." Each year, the Building the Dream Award is given to one professor or administrator and one student for Wake Forest and Winston-Salem State Universities. These individuals represent the qualities Dr. King epitomized and actively exercise these qualities in his or her own community, both on and off campus. This year, the Library Lecture Series is proud to feature the 2014 student recipient of the Building the Dream Award, Gracie Harrington. Now, I'd like to share a few facts about Gracie, which she shared with me, and in true Gracie fashion, I got quite a list. So, but they're all good, so I felt you all should hear them too. So here we go. Gracie is originally from Baltimore, Maryland. Her parents are Joseph and Diana, who happen to be here today. And she has one sister, Colleen. She graduated from the Bryn Mawr School, and she's currently a senior at Wake Forest with a double major in politics and international affairs and women's, gender, and sexuality studies. She is a president of the National Residence Hall Honorary and currently the president of the Gay Straight Student Alliance here at Wake Forest. Her first experience at LGBTQ plus activism was when she worked on a self-generated research project the summer before her senior year of high school. At the time, Maryland had not yet legalized same-sex marriage, so knowing that if it would eventually be legalized, it would have to come up for a vote. So Gracie informally asked strangers at a coffee shop what their opinion was on same-sex marriage. And she heard a lot of opinions, both for and against the issue, but she also learned about the division that exists in the marriage debate. At Wake Forest, she also has been a resident advisor for the last 2 years. She serves as a president's aide. She's also a member of the President's Commission on LGBTQ Affairs, and she is a member of the intersectionality and policy subgroups within that organization. She has held the positions of Sisterhood Chair, Spirit Chair, and Music Chair within her sorority Alpha Delta Pi. In high school, she created her own demo CD, I did not know this, of original songs on voice and guitar, and she still writes to this day. So you can see there will be some music from the guitar here. And next year, she will be working in Boston, Massachusetts, with the nonprofit organization MassPIRD, got it right, as a campus organizer, and she'll be working to make policy changes in many different fields, including environmental work. But above all of this, I consider her to be a very personal friend. So I'm very glad that she's with us today. So without further ado, Gracie Harrington.
Woo! That was really, really nice. I did not think he was going to read all the stuff I sent him. And just so you all know, it's Mr. Burst's birthday on Saturday. So please, if you see him, let him know happy birthday in advance. He's an amazing person. Okay, so since I love it's a good number of people here, the number I like, so I'm gonna make this a little bit more kind of casual, if that's okay. I've written things down, but I think I wanna make it a little more casual. But before I start, I need to say a lot of thank yous, so please bear with me. The reason that I've honestly gotten to be where I am or who I am is seriously because of the people that have been with me and have supported me, without a doubt. So I want to thank some of them. I'd like to thank the entire CSR library for giving me this opportunity to share my voice with you all. I never thought that I would be doing this when I came in as a freshman, so it's really, really exciting. I would like to thank the MLK Building the Dream Award Committee for presenting me with this award, which again I never thought that I would receive, which is amazing. I would like to thank everyone throughout my life, many of who are here today, who have supported me both in my coming out process and in the process of finding my identity and my voice. You are the fuel that powered me to be honestly where I am. And lastly, there are two very, very special people in the audience, my mom and my dad, Diana Harrington and Joseph Harrington. Both my mom and my dad have loved and supported me more than I thought humanly possible. It's really difficult for me to kind of put into words how much they've done for me, but if I can be half the parents that they are one day, I'll have some awesome kids. So before I started, I wanted to make a couple introductions just before I start talking. So first, you might hear me use the phrase LGBTQ+, and I want to describe kind of what this is. A lot of times we hear LGBTQ, which stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer. Depending on where you are, it depends. It can change sometimes. But I like to add on the plus because there are a lot of identities, both gender identities and sexual orientations that are not complete in just LGBTQ. And so I always like to add the plus because I want to make sure that they're included in that group. And secondly, I wanted to just say that the story that I'm going to share is just from my own experience. I in no way mean to speak for the LGBTQ+ community at Wake. I in no way mean to speak for anyone bisexual at Wake. I just want to speak for myself. And so just keep in mind that this is just my story, that there's so many stories that exist. And I encourage all of you to hear as many as you can. So starting from my birth, I was born in Baltimore, Maryland in 1983. As a young kid, I was quirky and a piece of work, which my dad says I am still today. I distinctly remember choosing to wear mismatched socks each morning in the first grade because I did not want to look like everyone else. At the age of 3 and 4, I would not leave the house without wearing swimming goggles because I believed this to be part of my fashion. Looking back on when I was younger, I see that shaping force in my childhood was not that I made these independent decisions, but that my parents allowed me to express myself in ways that were not conventional. From the start, my parents taught me self-acceptance, which would later become necessary in order to try to make change. Many people who are LGBTQ+ say they know their sexual orientation or gender identity from a young age. While I clearly identified as a girl, my sexual orientation was not something I understood from a young age. I remember in kindergarten, I had numerous crushes on boys, and I remember that in grade school, I was particularly drawn to tomboys, girls with more masculine qualities. However, I'm not sure I was truly bisexual at this time. When I was in the 6th grade, I enrolled in an all-girls school called the Bryn Mawr School. This school would be where I would first dive into foreign parts of my identity. It was my freshman year of high school. Friend groups were changing, my awkward phase started fading. Hopefully it still is fading. And I was ready to become the best version of myself. Throughout middle school, I have never been too lucky in the romance department. Well, stop laughing. While many of my friends were in relationships, which in those days were defined as going on movie dates in large packs, I only had one boyfriend, and our relationship lasted for a whole 2 weeks. Attending an all-girls school, I did not get the chance to make close guy friends. I hoped that freshman year would be a new start. I would gain confidence, learn how to do my makeup correctly, and would finally get my first kiss. 13 years old without a first kiss. I could not believe it, but I would never guess who I would get it from. I met her in the 6th grade. She was artistic, quirky, and we were friends. We didn't hang out on the weekends, but whenever I saw her in the hallways, I enjoyed our conversations. Fast forward 3 years, it was Friday night at our school's coffee house, my old school's version of an open mic night. The lights were lowered and the sound of an acoustic guitar drifted through the air, and that was when I saw her. She never looked like that before. I remember she was sitting in front of me, and all she did was look at me and smile. My eyes went big. Still to this day, 8 years later, I will never forget that smile. There are a few moments in life when you get to witness an emotion in its purest form, without question or doubt. I know what I felt from her. It was a sense of care and a shimmer of mystery. You know the feeling I'm talking about. It is when all the world stops and you linger for a moment in a whirlwind of happiness. It is patient, it is kind, it is a glimpse of what I believe to be love. Immediately after expressing these feelings, I grew concerned. That night, I was perplexed as to what I felt. I knew the look she gave me, one of romantic interest, and I had never received this look from a girl before. I'd always planned on marrying a man. We would have children, live happily ever after, but wait, why was there suddenly a bump in my roadmap of a plan? Over the following months, our romance intensified. We began holding hands, eating lunch together every day, until I took a large leap of faith. I asked her if she wanted to be my girlfriend. When I talk about these memories, I look back and think of them fondly. These were happy memories, weren't they? At the time, however, I could not enjoy living in the moment. I may have had a girlfriend, but that was the problem. I had a girlfriend. I remember looking into the mirror and viewing myself as a disgusting monster. That year, I experienced anxiety. I told a few of my friends about having a girlfriend, but I always wondered if others knew. I heard my name referred to as that girl who was in a lesbian relationship. Is that all for which I was known? It saddens me to this day, because the mixtures of emotions from that year were polar opposites. In some senses, I was experiencing this wonderful romance with the person I really liked. I'll never forget the night of our first kiss. We were walking from school back to her house. She pulled me behind a parked car and kissed me. It was wonderful. However, that memory is mixed with feelings of anxiety and fear. Society said what I was doing was not okay. So I broke it off. Instead of caring about her feelings, all I could do was think about the fear of being judged and ostracized. What I did to her was not fair, because I should have focused on my treatment of her instead of the treatment of others, the judgment of others. After my freshman year of high school, I went entirely back in the closet. I never again spoke of my first kiss. At slumber parties, I would lie and say my first kiss was with a boy, perhaps in the movie theaters or after a dinner date. It was as if I was trying to rewrite the past. I almost thought I could, but those feelings of control never lasted long. Every once in a while, I would begin being interested in a girl as more than a friend. I would then be sent down this spiral of an identity crisis. What am I? I thought I was straight. Wasn't that just a phase? Why am I doing this to myself? Ignoring my true feelings regarding my sexual orientation led to some of the hardest journeys of my life thus far. During my junior year of high school, I suffered from intense depression. I believe that my depression and remaining in the closet were not two unrelated incidents. For me, I often organize moments in my life with music. For me, music explains the emotions which words cannot. Throughout this presentation, I will be sharing a few songs for you. To begin, I would like to share a song I wrote at that time in my life. when I was 13 called Simple Lyrics. The song follows similar patterns and content of many other love songs. However, this song was written about a woman. For years, when performing this piece, I would ambiguously say it was about a person, or I would just lie and say it was about a guy. However, the truth is that it was about a girl. I'd like to share that piece with you now. Can't you see my eyes coming toward you? Can't you feel my face searching for the answer? Will you? Or would you love me too? Through life I've had many things different. Just wouldn't hold me the way you do. And I hope that maybe you could love me too. 'Cause I just get lost in your eyes. And I know our ocean's waves coincide. And if you would just look into your heart, you'd see our love was there from the very start. Now I don't know what to believe in, 'cause I'm tired from all of the distractions that keep me. That stop me from loving you. In the end, we will both see the reflection of the other in our hearts, our minds, and bodies, and just know. No matter what goes, I will keep on loving you. 'Cause I just get lost in your eyes. And I know our ocean's waves go inside. And if you would just look into your heart, you'd see our love was there from the very start. You'd see our love was there from the very start. You'd see our love was there from the very start. What I find meaningful about this song is that it, in my eyes, truly exhibits purity. I was only 13 when I wrote it, meaning it was a time when my views of romance were based off of fantasies. Oftentimes, love between two people of the same sex is marked as impure or sinful. I believe this song proves that wrong. When I entered Wake Forest at the age of 17, I, in all honesty, did not know what to expect. As a senior in high school, I decided to apply to Wake Forest because it fit every aspect I was looking for in college. Wake Forest had small class sizes and a rigorous education while still holding a traditional university feel. During freshman orientation, I looked across the sea of students in Wake Chapel while the president of the university spoke. And to my eyes, nearly every face looked identical. While I was dressed in old jeans and a t-shirt, designer brands of J. Crew, Southern Tide, and Louis Vuitton sprinkled across the audience. Between speakers, I happily introduced myself to those sitting around me, yet received unenthusiastic replies back. This was the start of a new chapter in my life, and I already did not feel part of my class. A fear of being excluded was instilled within me. I made a point to study what the girls around me were wearing and to purchase similar apparel. I realized that both religion and Greek life were popular on campus, so I consistently attended fellowship meetings, fraternity parties, and gossiped with girls about which sorority we wanted to join. I felt satisfied that I had properly conformed to the Wake Forest culture. However, a large part of me was missing. As the weeks of freshman year grew on, the Gracie that I knew in high school began to wear away. I felt exhausted as I spent every day really trying to be someone that I wasn't. Depression grew on me again, until I was at a point so low and cared about my own happiness so little that it became evident to me that something in my life clearly had to change for me to continue moving forward. Yes, I fit in finally, but I was definitely disappearing into the crowd. I wanted to be a face people knew, and I wanted to make a positive impact on those around me. In order to make a difference, my full self had to come to the table. And I knew that for starters, I had to come out. So I began to process the idea of coming out as bisexual during my sophomore year of college. I started by searching deep inside myself. What was stopping me? What were my fears? I listed in my head the different people I could put off, disappoint, anger by coming out. My extended family, my friends, the administration. I felt as though I had everything to lose by coming out. By hiding my identity as a bisexual woman, that was definitely not working. So I began to prepare. I chose location, Shorty's open mic night. At Shorty's, I had often played the song that I just played for you, but again, I have lied and said that it was about a boy, and it was actually about a girl. I decided that the best way for me to come out was to come out with a song. When I was 17, I wrote a song called With a Wife. And what it's written about is my wonder for why I want to be accepted for having a wife. Because at the time, all the states that I lived in had not legalized same-sex marriage. The last line of the chorus reads as follows: I dreamed of a fairy tale life, but why can't I have it with a wife? I marked my calendar. The night would be April 20th. I began inviting nearly everyone I knew, sisters in my sorority, friends from classes, professors, and I even invited President Nathan O. Hatch, who I did not know at all at the time. The days grew closer to April 20th. I think those were some of the hardest days for me because as the days grew closer, I kept on just thinking about how much I had to lose. And I remember walking around campus and seeing people, and people saying hi to me, and thinking, these people might not say hi to me in a week or in 2 weeks. The countdown was one of the hardest parts, in all honesty. But finally, the night of April 20th arrived. So I went up on stage and I looked into the crowd, and I could feel my voice quivering because I'd never done anything like this. And I said the following words: I'm up here today because I need to tell you something that has been on my mind for years. As the words came out of my mouth, I was surprised because in the process of coming out, I'd only thought about my fears. I'd only thought about how this could affect me. It was very self-focused. I had been worried, I had been scared, but what about the countless other people at Wake Forest who were living in the closet? Perhaps by coming out, I could encourage them to maybe come out. I'm up here because we need a change in this nation, a change in this state, a change in this community, and a change at Wake Forest, I exclaimed. I played my song With a Wife and was shocked by the miraculous moment thus far, the most miraculous moment I've ever experienced in my life. Eyes of tears filled the audience, and those tears weren't out of sadness, they were out of happiness. Over the following months, people surprised me. When I came out in my sorority chapter, I received a standing ovation. Professors and students emailed me with words of support and love. Even President Hatch, who didn't know me at all the time again, sent me an email thanking me for sharing my experience to the Wake Forest community. In essence, I felt incredibly supported right after I came out. An essential element, like I've said, to this was my song With a Life. I was going to play it now, but I think I want to end on it, so I'm going to wait till the end. I made the conscious decision to come out publicly because I did not know one bisexual person at Wake Forest. That's not to say that there weren't bisexual people at Wake Forest, but as a freshman and sophomore, I didn't know of one. I'm going to be honest, although I received much support from Wake, following this wave of support came a wave of a lack of support, which I expected to happen. I got an anonymous message saying that I made people feel uncomfortable. I lost friends. There's certain people that I knew through organizations that would just give me strange looks, or I'd say hi to them and they'd flat out ignore me. A few years ago, the LGBTQ center sign was vandalized with the words "rotten hell," and I was overcome by sadness and distress. I was reminded of the people who would talk about me, the people who gave me the cold shoulder while in line to get coffee, and the people who thought that I was disgusting. After the sign was vandalized, I stayed in my room and in my bed for that entire weekend. However, as time has passed, I now see that on the whole, it has been such a positive experience for me. I have been given a platform I never thought I would get. I have been given incredible leadership opportunities just for sharing the truth about who I am. However, something that I've tried to keep in check throughout my time has been that although I'm different sexual orientation-wise, I hold a lot of privileges in other aspects of my identity. I've thought about this a lot and about how my reaction to coming out would be if I wasn't white, if I wasn't in Greek life, if I didn't show myself in a feminine manner. Sometimes I wonder if my reaction, the reaction to coming out, would have been so positive if other parts of who I wasn't conventional or in the majority of Wake. I think it's critical for me to keep this in mind as I move forward. Now for a few minutes, I would like to talk about something a little bit less serious, but something that's very important to me, which is Ellen Degeneres. So, surprisingly enough, Ellen Degeneres has played a huge role in my self-acceptance as an LGBTQ plus individual. My parents, they would sometimes comment on this, but almost every single night when I was in the closet, I would watch videos of Ellen Degeneres. And I think my parents thought I had like an obsession with her. I remember once my mom was like, "Grace, like, is there something going on between you two?" Like, and the reason why I did that is because for me, watching Ellen videos was equivalent to someone reading the Bible each day. It was a daily affirmation that who I was okay. I was okay. She was awesome. She said it was okay. I felt good. Multiple times I would read the speech she gave out at Tulane's commencement in 2009, and I would like to share a portion of that with you. So this is Ellen, not me. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life, and the way I ended up on this path was from a very tragic event. I was maybe 19, my girlfriend at the time was killed in a car accident, and I passed the accident, and I didn't know it was her, and I kept going, and I found out shortly after that it was her. I was living in a basement apartment, I had no money, I had no heat, I had no air, and I had a mattress on the floor, and the apartment was covered with fleas. And I was soul searching. And I was wondering, why is she suddenly gone and there are fleas here? I don't understand, there must be a purpose, and wouldn't it be so convenient if we could pick up the phone and call God and ask these questions? So I started writing, and what poured out of me was an imaginary conversation with God, which was one-sided. And I finished writing it, and I looked at it, and I said to myself, I hadn't even been doing stand-up at this time because there wasn't any club in town. I said, I'm going to do this on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. At the time, he was the king. And I'm going to be the first woman in the history of the show to be called over to sit down. And several years later, I was the first woman in the history of the show and the only woman in the history of the show because of that phone conversation with God that I wrote. Ellen Degeneres has given countless lesbian women across this nation in the world a voice. Although she is very successful currently, not many people knew that after she came out, she was fired from her hit sitcom show. She then could not get a job for 3 years. It was only after she was offered a talk show, which few networks wanted to buy, that she regained her career, confidence, and fame. I'm definitely not a stand-up comedian, I'm not like Reese, but I hope to one day be a role model like her. I hope to one day be a role model to people, not just who are LGBTQ, but who are specifically bisexual. Since coming out, I have realized that biphobia is more prevalent than I thought. Bisexuality is often misunderstood. Many people think that people who are bisexual cannot live a happy marriage or have healthy relationships. Additionally, some people think, like unicorns, bisexuals are a myth. But the truth of the matter is that there are few notable bisexual role models in the United States. A few celebrities have mentioned their bisexuality, including Megan Fox, Drew Barrymore, and Channing Tatum, but few have had the presence that someone like Degeneres has had. And for this reason, since coming out, I've made a very conscious decision to not just identify as LGBTQ+, but to identify as a bisexual person. In order to spread my experience as a bisexual woman, and in turn bring awareness to this less discussed sexual orientation, I hope to spread my experience through music. The award for which I have received is titled the MLK Building the Dream Award, which means so much to me because since I was a kid, my dad would tell me about MLK and Gandhi, and I just grew up hearing so many stories about them and having them be my role models, honestly, in addition to my dad and my mom. So with me, I brought something special. I didn't know my dad was going to be here today, so this could be kind of funny with him in the room. But I brought a postcard that he sent me a few years ago, which is this. And the photo on the front is of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. driving in Baltimore, and you can see him being driven and reaching out his hand and just the hope that he's bringing to many people. And what my father wrote on the postcard was the following: "Do you have a dream?" The deep love and admiration I've had for Dr. Martin Luther King and the man who greatly influenced him, Mahatma Gandhi, stems from my father. Although Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Mahatma Gandhi focused on different causes than my own, I will forever believe that their messages are universal and eternal. I cannot count the number of times I have watched Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech. Still to this day, if I'm ever feeling down, I'll just watch it. But I would like to share a couple lines with you, which are some of my favorite parts. "And this will be the day when all of God's children will be able to sing with new meaning, 'My country 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, and from every mountainside let freedom ring. And if America is to be a great nation, this must become true. And so let freedom ring from the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire. Let freedom ring from the mighty mountains of New York. Let freedom ring from the heightening Alleghenies of Pennsylvania. Let freedom ring from the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado. Let freedom ring from the curvaceous slopes of California. But not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi, from every mountainside, let freedom ring." There's so many things I love about these words, one of which is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s unification of many locations in the United States. This leads me to share something that I've never shared in public before and have only shared with about 3 people, which is a project that I plan on doing this summer. I believe that in order to make change, we cannot settle for what is easy. While living in the South throughout my undergraduate career, I've seen that too many times the South is passed over or ignored in the fight for LGBTQ+ equality. Having lived in both Baltimore and Philadelphia, I have seen how much of a difference acceptance and visibility in the community can make to a person. For a portion of the summer, following my graduation, I will drive across the United States, primarily to the states where same-sex marriage is banned, to perform at open mic nights and coffee houses. At these performances, I will play my original songs, many of which have documented my relationships with men and women. Throughout my journey, I will record the reactions to my pieces on a blog. By participating in this project, I hope to get a better sense of local cultures throughout the United States. But most importantly, however, I hope to make a difference in the lives of people for whom I perform. Throughout my journey, if I can just make one person see that bisexuality is not a sin, or if I can make just one person in the closet feel less alone, then my goal will be achieved. And I think I'll end on the song that used to come out, which is called With a Wife. And this is one that I'll definitely be performing on the road over the summers I do this journey.
A big screen door with a matching porch, money on dogs, some resorts in my hair, going through the wind. This home of mine was just a dream, but I was right that 17 would leave me here. Strength is the key to my dreams. I learned love ain't as simple as it seemed. I'm young, but please hear me out. Love is what this world's about. I dreamed of the fairy tale life, but why can't I have it with a wife? Just not a horse trotting through the trail of mine. Sister's letters coming through the mail, and my kid sound asleep. Days are hours and hours and days. Love to get lost in our pretty maze. I never went back to be. Strength is the key to my dreams. I learned love ain't as simple as it seemed. I'm young, but please hear me out. That is what this world's about. I dreamed of a fairy tale life, but why can't I have it with a wife? It's hard to see how things can come to this. I could be cursed for one special kiss. I'm young, but please hear me out. Love is what this world's about. I dreamed of the fairy tale life, but why can't I have it with a wife? Why can't I have it with a wife? Why can't I have it with a wife?
Yeah!
Who or what was your biggest inspiration to get to this
I guess, my biggest support would be my parents, definitely. My biggest inspiration, I think more than a person, it's just I always think back onto when I was in a dark place, and I think of what I wish I had had. And so I try to do that, I guess. Yeah.
What's your biggest dream for what you want to do with your life? Like whether it's like an emotion or like a specific place or job.
Yeah, so I'm a very big dreamer. I feel like if I listed some of them, you guys would judge me.
I won't judge you, Gracie.
You would judge. I think I just really want to make a difference in people's lives. Honestly, that's really what I want to do. And for me, the way that I feel like I can best do that is through music, just because that gives me a platform, and I think it helps people that don't understand. It helps them to understand better. So the hope would be just to be honestly successful with that. So to make a CD, that would be awesome. And yeah, just to have a platform where people could hear my voice.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
How did you emotionally deal with the up and down of having a lot of support after you came out and then feeling like it went backwards?
Yeah, so one thing that I mentioned in my speech was that I expected that to happen, and the reason that I did expect that to happen was just because I've watched so much on Ellen Degeneres after she came out, and she had the same thing. After she came out, she got so much support. Everyone was so happy, but then once that quieted down, that's when the negativity came. So I kind of saw that I thought that was going to happen. It was really hard. I mean, I'm very lucky because I never was in any situation where I felt that I could physically be harmed. And not everyone who comes out can say that they have that privilege. So I do not take that for granted. I think, you feel you're in a low place, but the only way that honestly you can jump is if you're low enough to touch the ground. And so I think that the only way you can really achieve what you want to achieve is you need to search in yourself and find that strength when you're in a low point. So I think I just tried to cope, and then I was able to one day be strong enough to be okay.
Can you talk about the support you got from the LGBT office?
Yes.
And maybe some other organizations or individuals on campus that reached out to you?
Definitely. Sorry, if anyone knows me knows I'm a coffee addict, so you're my coffee. Thank you for bringing that up. I received so much support from the LGBTQ Center. I talked to them about my idea for coming out. I was extremely supported by everyone there. Definitely Dr. Nazareth and now Rob, who works here, are two people that I really, really look up to in so many ways. So we got a huge amount of support from them. And honestly, a lot of the people I got support from, at Wake, are in this audience. I got support from so many people who I see here. Just even doing something as simple as someone sending you an email saying that they support you, that does more than I think people know. So I think it was that. It was the big things, it was the small things. I was extremely lucky, and I genuinely do not think that I would have gotten as confident with myself, with who I am, if it had not been for other people. I really do not think it was just a solo journey. It was thanks to, I was very lucky with the people that surrounded me.
If there was one lesson that you had learned throughout this entire experience, what would it be?
I think it would be that it is so critical to love yourself. I really try to do that now. Sometimes if I'm feeling down, I literally will just look in the mirror and be like, girlfriend, you are beautiful, work it out. It's so essential to do that, because the thing that sometimes talk about life, sometimes you'll have people that'll tell you that, but sometimes you won't. Sometimes everyone has been in dark places where sometimes you don't have someone there every single day telling you, you are beautiful, you're okay, just because it's not logistically possible all the time. My parents definitely told me as much as they could, but being away from home, I had to kind of experience that myself. And so I think that is so important. And just telling yourself that no matter what other people say, if you feel something, and as long as it's something that you feel that doesn't harm others, tell yourself you are A-okay. You are good to go. You are beautiful. You're amazing. It's so important to give that self-talk.
So can you describe when your advocacy began? Was it because of an event? Was it because you decided to fight for someone else that experienced an event? Or
Yeah, well, I guess on campus, because there's a couple different things. On campus, time-wise, my trying to be an activist, I guess, began after I came out. Because after I came out, I was like, well, shoot, let's just go all the way. Let's like, woo! And so after I came out, I joined Gay Straight Student Alliance and then eventually became social chair and president of that. And especially also, I did that because I felt, I was in the closet for a long time, and so there was a long time when I was not doing any activism, and I felt like I kind of wanted to make up for that time when I was not helping others. But actually I don't even know if I shared this before, but there's actually is someone that I can think about, and I used to work at a daycare. It was at the school I went to, Bryn Mawr, and there was a boy there named Lucas, and he had 2 moms. And at the time, same-sex marriage wasn't legalized in Maryland. And he was young, 4 or 5. And I just remember how sometimes when I talked to him, it was really difficult for him that his parents couldn't get married or that they weren't always accepted. And just seeing, the effect that has on someone who is a child, who is so young and innocent and should not be having to deal with that, was something that I really thought about. And I thought about also when I have children, and because I hope to have children one day. Surprise! No. I hope to have children one day, and if I might have children who are gay, or who are trans, or who don't conform into some box, because none of us conform into every single box. And I do not want them to have to grow up telling themselves that they're a monster like I did in high school, because that is a horrible way to live. So I kind of think about, I guess, those 2 things.
Did you ever talk to your first kiss after you broke up? Does she know that you wrote a song about her?
Yeah, good question.
Sorry if that's personal.
No. This whole thing is personal. A couple years ago, I actually sent her a message on Facebook just with this huge apology, apologizing for breaking up with her, telling her that the reason I did that was because of my own problems, but how I treated her was not okay. And she never responded. I feel like she probably knows, because also I wrote, some of this speech came from an article I wrote on Real Talk, which is a blog that a couple of my friends here at Wake have started, and in that I talked about my experience of being in a relationship with her. And so I'm just assuming that she's seen it, but I don't know. And another thing that also really does kind of, maybe going back to what you were asking, that does really affect myself, is when we were in high school, she tried to kill herself. And that has also really affected me, because it's very hard for me to believe that things like depression and suicide are not related to one's sexual orientation when they're in an environment where it's not always accepted.
So, because you graduate this spring, and you will be here at Wake to be in Massachusetts, how do you hope that your, I don't want to say legacy, because that makes it sound like,
Oh, she has a legacy.
No, it makes me sound way too important. No.
but for lack of a better term, how do you think your legacy at Wake, do you think that you're going to leave and things will go back to the way it was when you were a freshman, or how do you hope it's changed?
I'm so happy to say that I do not have that much power that when I leave it will go back to I hope I've made some difference, but I'm not that powerful at the Wake. So I have seen such a change since I was a freshman. Such a change. It's almost hard to believe the number of people that I've seen that are proud to be out, or that are just the number of students here that are just more accepting of many different ways of life. So I really do think that as our university continues to move into the future, I think that we will get more of that student body. I think it's also correlated specifically to the fact that our university is becoming more well-known. And a big reason I think why we have a more conservative history was because it wasn't as well-known of the university. It was much more small. It was more just for people in the South. And so, yeah, I mean, I want to be surprised. Like, I hope, my dream is like in 10 years I can come back here and speak here or something like that and be like, when I was a kid, we walked 10 miles. I mean, I hope I become someone that makes Wake proud. I hope so. Oh, that's all that matters.
Exactly.
Did you have your hand up? I'm sorry.
I had to step out for a few
Oh,
minutes.
no problem.
I don't think you mentioned it, but who are the artists do you listen to?
Oh my gosh, there are a lot. So there's a big range of artists. I have always been a huge Taylor Swift fan. I love her songwriting. I will say that I think that I disagree with some of the things that she does in some of her content. Like, for example, just in one of her videos, her Shake It Off video, she appropriates Black culture, and there's certain things that I dislike that she's done, but I really do admire herself as a songwriter. And just, I think she's a brilliant businesswoman. I'm a very big fan of Miley Cyrus, although again, I do think that she appropriates Black culture, which is not something that I'm okay with. But I love how just liberated she is. I think that's awesome. But my favorite band of all time is Queen. Obsessed with Queen, but I think so many. I'm getting to Missy Elliott now.
Yes.
Yeah, I love the divas, Nicki Minaj. Like, I love people that are just like, are amazing. Just, I love it. So there's a lot of artists. Anything else? Okay, well, thank you all so much for being here.